gentleman from Ohio, Dennis Kucinich. Dennis Kucinich chairs the Domestic Policy Subcommittee of Oversight and serves also on the Education and Labor Committee. He is a former mayor of the city of Cleveland and as a tireless advocate for peace and justice. We welcome him here today.
May I proceed, Mr. Chairman? I want to thank the chair for this opportunity to testify, and I want to recognize my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, Ranking Member Smith and my colleagues from the House who I work with, who are my friends, who I respect their integrity and their honor, and I think it's important that we proceed among ourselves in that way, and so that we can be of service to our nation in the highest manner. Our country has been at war in Iraq and has occupied the streets and villages of Iraq for 5 years, 4 months, and 6 days. The war has caused the deaths of 4,127 American soldiers and the deaths of as many as 1 million innocent Iraqis. The war will cost the American people upwards of $3 trillion and is the main contributing factor to the destruction of our domestic economy. Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent to enter S.J. Res. 45 and H.J. Res. 114 into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
The primary justifications for going to war outlined in the legislation which the White House sent to Congress in October of 2002 have been determined conclusively to be untrue. Iraq was not continuing to threaten the national security interests of the United States. Iraq was not continuing to possess and develop a significant chemical and biological weapons capability. Iraq was not actively seeking a nuclear weapons capability. Iraq did not have the willingness to attack the United States. Iraq had not demonstrated capability and willingness to use weapons of mass destruction. Iraq could not launch a surprise attack against the United States or its armed forces. Therefore, there was not an extreme magnitude of harm that would result in the United States, that would result to the United States and its citizens from such an attack. The aforementioned did not justify the use of force by the United States to defend itself. Iraq had no connection with the attacks of 9/11 or with al-Qaeda's role in 9/11. Iraq possessed no weapons of mass destruction to transfer to anyone. Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction and therefore had no capability of launching a surprise attack against the United States or its armed forces, and no capability to provide them to international terrorists who would do so. However, many members of Congress relied on these representations from the White House to inform their decision to support the legislation that authorized the use of force against Iraq. We all know present and former colleagues who have said that if they knew then what they know now, they would not have voted to permit an attack upon Iraq. The war was totally unnecessary, unprovoked, and unjustified. The question for Congress is this: what responsibility does the President and members of his administration have for that unnecessary, unprovoked, and unjustified war? The rules of the House prevent me or any witness from utilizing familiar terms. But we could put two and two together in our minds. We can draw inferences about culpability. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter H-Res. 333, H-Res. 1258, and H-Res. 1345 into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
I request that each member read the 3 bills that I have authored, bills which are now awaiting consideration by the Judiciary Committee. I am confident that the reader will reach the same conclusions that I have about culpability. What then should we do about it? The decision before us is whether to honor our oath as members of Congress to support and defend the Constitution that has been trampled time and again over the last 7 years. The decision before us is whether to stand up for the checks and balances designed by our founding fathers to prevent excessive power grabs by either the judicial, legislative, or executive branch of government. The decision before us is whether to restore faith in government, in justice, and in the rule of law. The decision before us is whether Congress will endorse with its silence the methods used to take us into the Iraq War. The decision before us is whether to demand accountability for one of the gravest justices imaginable. The decision before us is whether Congress will stand up to tell future presidents that America has seen the last of these injustices, not the first. I believe the choice is clear. I ask this committee to think and then to act now in order to enable this Congress to right a very great wrong and to hold accountable those who misled this nation. I thank you.
Our next